Hey everyone, this is Karen Waksman, founder of Retail MBA, and I'm so excited for today's interview. We're going to be talking about Dave Asprey. After I just asked him, does he like Dave or David? Hi, Dave. How are you?
Hi, Karen.
So Dave's amazing. He's going to tell you who he is and everything, but he essentially is the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, all sorts of other things. And he's going to talk about who he is, but essentially his brand, his products are a global phenomenon, and he is just an amazing guy. And actually the way that I met you, Dave, was we were both speaking at a conference with Digital Marketer, and Dave and I actually just met because we were speaking at the same time. And I was laughing, and I'm like, I'm competing against Dave? That's not fair. You guys are killing me. You know, all the product.
I was saying the same thing. I'm like, Karen's a product person. I'm just some coffee guy. What the heck? I was
I know,
intimidated.
well, it was so cute. So I was laughing, that's how we kind of got, so we were just sitting there, having some fun with that. So anyways, hi, Dave. So appreciative that you're here. Okay. So tell us who you are and, just what's going on with you. Like, tell us about your companies.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur from Silicon Valley. I was a 300-pound computer hacker when I got started. And my first real job was at the company that held Google's first servers when it was two guys in a computer. And this was a company that went public, and I made $6 million when I was 26 years old, and I lost it when I was 28. And I spent a lot of time, in the deep tech world, and got tired of being fat, got tired of being tired, and started hacking it and created a movement called Biohacking. And along the way, I started a blog, and I just wanted to share info. Then I said, I can't buy coffee that doesn't make me feel like crap, because there's problems with coffee processing. And I can't buy yak butter, and yak butter tea was an inspiration for Bulletproof Coffee. So I just found stuff that worked that I couldn't buy. And then I put it out there and said, maybe the market for functional coffee, by the way, which is a $100+ million category now, it was zero. And I put it out there, and it turns out more than 100 people were interested, which was my break even, so I could have good coffee and I could pay for all the lab tests to do what I wanted to do. And since then, now Bulletproof is a very successful company that's raised more than $80 million in venture capital and has done hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue over the life of the company. My other companies, though, I have a company that does patented circadian lighting called True Dark. In fact, I'm wearing the glasses from True Dark now. They give you more energy, help you sleep better. I have a company called 40 Years of Zen, which has had huge numbers of entrepreneurs go through. It's a 5-day neuroscience-driven program where we have neuroscientists tuning your brain like a race car mechanic would tune your car. And that's up in Seattle. I have Upgrade Labs, which is a facility, or actually two facilities in Beverly Hills and in Santa Monica, and soon one in Canada, where we help people recover faster than they're supposed to. So we can replace exercise with recovery, and people are getting younger as a result of that. I have a media company that's doing very well. Bulletproof Radio has 200 million downloads. And I have a company that makes a probiotic spray for your home called Homebiotic. And I'm advisor to dozens of companies and investor in dozens of companies as well. So I have an investment firm as well.
So do you sleep or what?
Sleep is for the week. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, honestly, I'm really curious. Do you actually are you working 18 hours a day? I mean, that's a lot of stuff that you're doing.
I did for a long time believe that sleep was something that, was a waste of time. And what I've done now is I've realized, and I write this in my books as well, is that there's an ROI on sleep. And if you sleep 8 hours a day, your odds of dying from all causes are higher than if you sleep 6.5 hours a day.
Really?
And this is the science. Millions of people studied over years will show that. And if you sleep 9 hours, you are absolutely, if you need that in order to recover, you're absolutely at much higher risk than people who sleep 6 or 7 hours. So what's going on here is healthy people need less sleep. Who would have thought? So if you can learn how to sleep really well, and I published the data in my anti-aging book that came out last year. It's interesting. I can get 2 hours of deep sleep and 2 hours of REM sleep in a 6.5 hour night. And that's more REM sleep and more deep sleep than a normal person who's 20 years younger than me gets in the same amount of time. In other words, I've tweaked my environment so that I sleep better in less time. And that really makes a difference. I also, when I started Bulletproof 10 years ago, I was a VP at a large publicly traded computer security company. So I was starting a company. I had my second child had just been born. And I was an executive with stock options flying around the world doing keynote presentations in boring things like antivirus software. So I minimized my sleep then, and it allowed me to start the company, but it wasn't particularly healthy to do it that way. I know a lot better now how to do it. So I teach people on my blog and all, here's how to get more sleep in less time. I do that, but I don't work 18 hours a day. I have dinner with my kids every night. I stop work about 5 or 5:30 on the average night. I may write something later if I feel like it, but I don't do email at night most nights. I don't work on weekends. So basically my work hours are from 10 to 5. And I might do some stuff before 10 that I want to, but not that I have to do. And I have a team. And that's where most entrepreneurs fail, is they do not hire the right people and they do not trust the right people to do it. That said, I've been absolutely screwed by people I've hired because I didn't know how to hire them. So you make enough mistakes, you learn. So it's that empowering your team to make decisions and to teach them when to come to you. That's what allows me to have a portfolio of companies with a shared CFO and shared general operations and things like that. But it's a very powerful model when you really understand how to build teams. And I only did this by making lots of mistakes. That's why I advise companies.
I love that. So first of all, everybody listening to this is probably going to rush to your blog to figure out how to sleep better.
DaveAsprey.com. There you go.
Because who doesn't want to I think I sleep amazing, but I always heard 8 hours. You know what I mean?
Do you monitor it? I have a ring called an Aura ring.
I actually have one. I have one.
Okay.
I was all proud of myself after putting the ring on, Aura ring, by the way, guys. It tracks your sleep.
So I'm an investor in the company and advisor to the company, and it's an awesome thing.
I got it. Actually, I got it as a gift for speaking at a conference, and I was all proud of myself because I was an epic sleeper, maybe happy, but now
if 8 hours works for you, that's fine. as long as your data is good, you're good. Some people, eight is fine, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, I sleep, 6 hours, but then you look at it and you get 5 minutes of deep sleep and you get, 10 minutes of REM, and you wake up and you sort of stumble into the office. That was me when I started monitoring my sleep, and I've monitored my sleep every day for 15 years. I used to sleep with an EEG headset on, and I was CTO of a startup we sold for $100 million to Intel that did tracking from the wrist. I really got into this because this was a high ROI thing. Plus, I'm going to live to at least 180, so you should get your data. And I will tell you, that is the single biggest mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make. Maybe the second one. The first one is, not hiring the right people and micromanaging the ones you have. Those are big deals as well.
Yeah, no. All right. Well, let's try and focus. So you're really into products, obviously. You got the Aura ring that you're invested in, Bulletproof. Let's start with Bulletproof. So the reason I knew about Bulletproof is because I'm an internet marketer. I sell information courses online. I'm going to events, and everybody kept talking about Bulletproof coffee, and you have this combination of things that you teach with the butter and the this and then that, and maybe I'm saying it wrong, but the essence of it is you had a process that you were teaching. And so since we're dealing with so many product companies who are listening to this, can you talk about did you start, because what you did was you created a movement of change where a lot of people in a certain industries who resonated with you started buying your stuff religiously. And so that's what was my perspective on it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I felt like was happening. It was getting word of mouth in certain places where your ideal audience was. So when you started the brand, so it started with the blog that you were sharing the product, or was it that you, tell me a little bit about that for people who are just trying to figure out which direction to go, how to get the strongest ROI for their time with their product.
Well, what I did is I said, it's very easy and it's kind of tempting to say, I'm going to find something that someone's doing out there and I'm just going to borrow the idea, and then I'll make something a little bit shittier and put it on Amazon, and then I'll get rich and live on a beach for 4 hours. And if you're one of those people, you should hang up and quit listening to this right now, because I don't want to share any of my knowledge with you, because you're a parasite on society. And I hope that you actually have something bad happen to you.
Wow.
Because what you're doing is you're stealing innovation dollars from the people who make stuff that's real. So if you cannot do it better or differently than the stuff that's out there, get a life or get a job for a real entrepreneur. Straight up. Okay.
Okay. All right,
Now,
guys, you hear that? Get off the phone if you're.
your job as an entrepreneur is to make better things that make the world better, not to make cheaper shit that steals from other people. And yeah, there's probably 15 books on Amazon right now that are called the Bulletproof Diet, even though it's a registered trademark globally, from people who are stealing my work. Amazon won't tell me who they are, and I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars hunting those people down. And of course, there's people who knock off Bulletproof Coffee and things like that. And frankly, my mindset on that was, look, anytime someone puts butter in coffee, even if it's moldy coffee, even if it's not grass-fed butter, it's still better than putting milk in coffee, because milk actually inactivates the plant compounds in coffee that are good for you. So I'm like, great, I'm doing the world a solid with my work, right? And anytime you like butter coffee, that's great. What I do find though, and I've talked to so many entrepreneurs with a lot of success, is that it becomes a problem. Like, take an example of Vega, the protein, the plant-based protein company. They made a high quality product. And within a couple of years of them having success, people came out with low quality plant protein products. And then someone who was new to the idea of using a plant-based protein would try the cheap stuff and go, this tastes like crap and it didn't work. And I felt bad. Therefore, it's not a useful category. So we're seeing rapid innovation, and anyone out there can launch anything they want in a short period of time. But in the case of, say, Mct Oil, which again was not a category, it's now a many $100 million category, and I did that. And Mct Oil, it turns out there's 4 kinds of Mct oil, and they all do different things. And if you don't process it right, it gives you something called disaster pants, which was a problem in the first year of Bulletproof, because well, you would use stuff that was impure and then it would cause gastric distress. And well, one thing leads to another. So disaster pants.
Disaster pants. Okay, sorry. I just knew.
So,
and it's registered that you said that. Okay.
You're like, what? So, okay. So here's the deal. I went out and I figured out which of the 4 kinds of MCT works. But then you see people out there saying, I didn't do the research. I don't know what's going on. I called some, Chinese supplier and I got, cosmetic grade MCT oil. I put in a bottle and I sold it for $4 less. Right. But what happens when someone drinks that is not a good thing. And then they say, oh, it doesn't work. And then eventually they'll try something that does work and you go, oh, wait, what's the difference? So I would just tell you, spend money. And this is the opposite of what most internet marketers will tell you. Spend money on a product that's actually better. And I did not pay Shailene Woodley to go on Jimmy Fallon and talk about Bulletproof Coffee for 2 minutes. I don't know either of them. I'd love to, right? And I was super grateful they did that. I didn't pay or even know that on Supergirl that they were going to have a monologue with famous actresses talking about Bulletproof Coffee. And like the list just goes on. Ed Sheeran on the red carpet. None of that was because I paid influencers. It was because they tried it and it worked so well that they just talked about it because they liked how they felt, right? So make a product that's world-class, like invest in the R&D, invest in the products. And then this is where most entrepreneurs who are inventors fail, is they can't market it to save their lives. So then what they do is they make it and no one knows about it. So if you're doing it right, you make awesome stuff and you market awesome stuff. And if you're a world-class marketer, partner with a world-class inventor who doesn't know how to get it out there, because both skills are unusual, right? But what a lot of marketers will do is they'll say, oh, I'm just going to find something and market it. I'll buy some cheap stuff from China. I'll make a really nice video. I'll do some Facebook paid ads, although Facebook doesn't work as well as Google right now because the ROAS isn't very good. And I'll go on and, march off into the world of profit. And you can do that. And if you're doing something like clothing, let's say, it probably isn't that big of a deal. But if you're going to go out there and say, I'm going to make supplements, maybe you should make stuff that actually works. And like, that's where it's getting to be a little bit sticky right now in the world, where there's so much noise from people marketing. Consumers have learned to be a little bit distrustful. They know that if you go to Amazon, it's kind of like going to the flea market 20 years ago, because the quality could be all over the place and many of the reviews are hacked. So then like, okay, how do I stand out there? Right. And there you have to have world-class marketing and a world-class product. And that's the only way you're going to win long-term.
Right. Sorry, 1 second. My dog's about to bark and I'm going to cut that off.
Love the ability to edit.
I can see him running. 1 second. Hold on. Let me just shut it down. Hold on. Sorry. That's never happened in any of my interviews, but I just saw I saw that coming.
I didn't hear anything,
Sorry,
so it's all good.
That little shit. We'll do that. Okay. One of the things I'll say to you is that I teach people I get into retail stores, and as of late, I've seen a lot of the people who come to me. There's a lot of that going on. People are stealing from each other. You go to an Amazon conference, they're not sharing with each other what their products are because they're worried their stuffs are going to get stolen. It's kind of a crazy time with products, and I'm assuming that the audience that is listening right now is doing the right thing in the world. And honoring the fact that there are people out there who really are putting the effort in. Because a lot of my clients are selling into retail chains, that really is something that, I'm assuming that they're doing a lot with, the higher quality, I guess I would say, right?
It's getting interesting because you look at what Amazon did to Monster Cable a while back. So Monster Cable used to be like the best connectivity cables you could get, and they'd make better HDMI cables. Frankly, they're better looking because HDMI is HDMI, but maybe better shielded. And a guy at Amazon said, "Hey, we could make these things for like $4, and since we know all the people who buy Monster cables and we can profile them, we'll just sell our low-cost Amazon Basics stuff." And they put Monster out of business. And so Amazon's out there actually competing with the people who sell on Amazon. But then you go into a grocery store, and most grocery stores today have their in-house brands. And if you have a breakout product, you're running the risk of the grocery store putting their stuff on the shelf above yours for $10 less, even if it's an inferior product. And so all of us are dealing with that. And the way you deal with it is you have a better looking product and you have a better actual product. And consumers have learned that the second way to tell if a product is good is actually price. So there's a mindset that says, I'm only going to buy the cheapest stuff and I'm going to spend $1 on my food if I can. And then there's another mindset from people who are a little bit higher on the socioeconomic spectrum. In other words, they're willing to spend more. They're saying, you know what? It's not that I can afford more than $1. So I'm saying if all you have is $1, you spend $1 on the best food you can get. But if there are people who have enough money to spend more on food, they say, I just won't because I'm cheap and I don't think it's worth it. They're not probably your customer. But if you have something that's $1.50 instead of $1, that's a sign that it's probably higher quality. And the unethical people will take the cheapest shit and put the best stickers on it and sell it at grocery. And the ethical people will actually spend some of that extra 50 cents on the product that's in there. And hopefully they did a good job so people feel different when they eat it, or it tastes better, or it has a better mouthfeel, or it doesn't break, or longer battery life, whatever the deal is. And then consumers talk about it. So I would not want to be the lowest price product out there. I would be the best product out there in the middle of the price.
I get you. I mean, to be honest with you, like the person who's buying the store-bought Safeway Select product is not necessarily the person who would buy the actual brand. So that is also something to consider. All the, you know what I mean? It's not always about price for the right person. Also, I have clients who, like I had a recent client who created a product that was $40 where their average competitor was $5. Why they were able to do it was because they were able to create a momentum of change with their product, a different story. There's a lot of different ways, but I agree with you. It's unethical and uncool to stick the best on the product. And I love that about you, Dave. Like, I really appreciate you that you're saying this. I deal with all sorts of interesting scenarios just because
I can imagine.
I mean, I've seen it all and I get you. And you're absolutely right. If anyone's getting this, I mean, the core essence is don't just try and assume that everyone's going to buy based on price. You might actually win because you put the thought and the effort. And I actually believe that you've been so successful, Dave, honestly, just from the time we spent together, and I've seen you speak live, is because you put your heart into it and you put your effort into it and you put your commitment into it, and people feel that through the products, through the experience. And
you're getting kind of metaphysical there, Karen, aren't you?
No, but I believe it. I mean, I've seen it. Like, I can tell straight dealing with, I don't know how many people in the last 11 years of who's going to succeed and who's not in the business. I can see it. It's a mathematical equation for me every time. I can look at somebody who brings me a product. I know who they are. I know what's going on. And I'll tell you exactly if they're going to rock out or not. It's the energy. It's who they are. If it's their belief system, it's how much they care. All of those things actually play more of a part than the actual product itself. I've seen the
I love it that you're saying that.
But it's true. I mean, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Every single time. It doesn't. The stupidest products are getting on store shelves. How is that possible? It's the person behind what they're doing. They actually believe in it. There's something going on that's deeper. So I know that for fact, and I put money on it all day long.
I love it that you just call it out. I teach that for entrepreneurs, that your company is a direct reflection of your own energy. And this is why personal development, things like learning how to fast, how to deal with discomfort, having a therapist, doing personal development work. In fact, that's why I opened a neuroscience institute, so I could have a neuroscientist, and we built new hardware and software for measuring brainwaves and teaching these advanced states of high performance. I've spent 4 months of my life doing that. And it's one of the reasons that I don't work 18 hours a day, is because I don't spend a lot of the thought process that goes into, or would have gone into my brain when I was younger, is kind of wasted on what's for lunch. About 30% of the thoughts in some people's heads is literally about food. And most of the other thoughts are about things they're afraid of or wanting to have sex. That's okay. We're wired biologically to do that. As marketers, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about there, right? Because most marketing preys on those three things that are wired into us. But if you're spending 50% or 60% of your mental energy on unconscious stuff like that, no wonder you're not very effective during the day. And if you can get past that stuff, two things happen. One, you're way more effective during the day, but who you are shows up in your team. It shows up in your copy. It shows up in your products. And the shamanic people and, the people who do a lot of energy medicine, esoteric stuff, a lot of them I interview on the show, they all say the same kind of things. But like you said, people can feel who you are in your product if you're real. And if you're saying I'm, anonymous and I just sell, crappy products that are cheap, they feel that too, right? And they pay less for it and they get less benefit from it. And so I truly believe that. And that's why any entrepreneur who wants to grow, you actually have to learn how to be a good person. And that's the hard part.
I deal with a lot of the top sellers of products, just because of the nature of what I do. You get to a certain level, you want to get into retail. And I would say, I know all those guys because they all go to the self-development courses and the events and stuff like that. I see them everywhere because of the fact that I'm very interested in that stuff as well. But those are the guys I know. They hit a certain level, life's falling apart. They need to find a way to ground themselves as it's scaling and growing. And so you're absolutely right. The most successful product company CEOs are ones that are constantly developing and so forth themselves, who they are, what's going on for them, because that's the only way to take it out of the park, right? So so you've written books on this and stuff. I'm gonna have to look a little deeper on what you do. That's cool. I think we're on the same page there because I see it all the time. I'm dealing with these guys everywhere. So, but let's go back to Bulletproof. I just got to ask you, it didn't just fly out of you that people were buying stuff. What did you do? What was the low hanging fruit things that work to get actual cash in hand beyond the fact that you're hardcore strict about it being high quality, that takes you to a certain level. But what action steps did you take? Was it hiring literally, or was it literally going door to door? Was it buying ads? What did you do to actually?
All I did was I wrote stuff that people hadn't heard before that worked. And I wrote for an audience that was ignored. The original start of my blog was called the Bulletproof Executive, because no one ever talked to people who were entrepreneurs and people who ran companies and were senior executives, or people who were killing it in business. No one ever talked to them about health, because guess what? When you're running a company, you're probably not thinking about your health all the time because your mind is full. And I cut my teeth in Silicon Valley. I worked as an entrepreneur in residence at one of the big VC firms. And I spent so much time just burning the candle there. We are an unacknowledged population. So I wrote my blog for those people who were underserved. I identified a niche. And the first people who took up Bulletproof were Silicon Valley developers, software developers, geeks, and entrepreneurs. The second people were Wall Street. The third people were singers and TV actors and movie actors. And the reason for that is these are people who all want to look good or have to look good. They all need their brains to work way more percentage of the day than most people, right? Because if you don't look good and you can't say your lines, or you're in a high pressure investment banker meeting, or you're trying to write code for 24 hours straight because you have a good idea and you have a deadline, those are high pressure, high performance situations that weren't acknowledged. And this is going back 10 years. And you go to where we are today, Bulletproof has changed a lot of the language around health, and you'll see biohacking. I was in Vogue, the print version this month.